Caution runners, speed bumps ahead.
Welcome to the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. We feature destination races from across the country. And after the race, we take you on a tour of the best local food and beverage to celebrate. So whether you are an elite runner or a back of the packer like us, you'll know the best places to accomplish, explore, and indulge on your next runcation. Hey, welcome to episode 204 of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. I'm your host, Amy.
And I'm your co-host, Dana. This is a bonus episode.
Yes. Normally, we just put out, one full episode a week?
One a week, normally on Tuesdays. This one will be dropping into the feed on Monday if you are listening to this as it just appears.
Welcome to your week of the springtime surprise.
That's right. We are wanting to get everybody who's heading to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida for the springtime surprise excited and charged up and ready to go accomplish, explore, and indulge at the happiest place on earth.
Yes, full of magical times. We hope this week will be for you and this weekend, since the races actually start on Thursday.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
That's right. It's 4 days of running with an extra day because one of the races is at night.
And you think your opinion, your strongly worded letter to RunDisney would be that they needed to have two of the three at night.
Correct.
But I don't know how it would work on the weekend.
I don't know how that would work out.
I don't know how it would work out.
Well, if you had the two back to back, if you had the Expedition Everest 5K at night, and then you had the Tower of Terror 10 miler at night, you could put those two together. Nighttime race.
Now you're thinking.
Day off.
There you go.
And then your daytime race. What's the 10K called?
Taste of the 10K.
Taste of the 10K.
Isn't it?
I think something like that. So you could do it that way.
And we have never participated in.
Correct.
That they're bringing back.
So I think that there's ways that they could do it. It's a lot of logistics.
Oh, race for the taste 10K.
Race for the taste.
That's it. Sorry.
It's a lot of logistics. It's a lot of planning that goes into it because RunDisney events are, to say that they're a production would be an understatement, I think.
Oh, they are massive events. They are large scale events.
Yeah. And Disney puts a lot of thought and effort into it. The number of volunteers, employees, law enforcement, you name it, is just staggering to make these race weekends go off without a hitch. And they do a pretty incredible job of doing that with minor hiccups here and there and
they're always looking to improve. Exactly.
They're always trying new things.
Those minor hiccups come from, well, let's try it this way. And then they figure out whether something doesn't work or does work and then tweaks it for next time. They tweak it for next time.
Yeah. But when you have that kind of an event that's that big in scale and scope, it's really not just the kind of thing that runners just drive there, fly there, and then grab a hotel and then just show up. It's a process. There's a lot of thought and effort that the participants should also put into play, but as they are embarking on their trip to the happiest place on earth, I think.
Well, race that you register for, you think about it months in advance. You set up a training plan months in advance. When you get there, you execute your plan. And there are many in the Runcation Nation who have executed their plans very well from several RunDisney events in the past. So this week, I thought it would be great to solicit some tips and tricks and advice from our Runcation Nation community.
Yeah, if you are new to RunDisney events, it can be a bit overwhelming. And what better way for you to go prepared than to be able to get some of that wisdom from a few thousand of your closest friends,
right,
who have been there and done that and can offer you some really solid advice. And you put it out on social media, and boy, did you get some responses.
I did. And I think that some will apply specifically to a Run Disney event, but many of them can apply to running any large scale race or race weekend period.
Yeah.
So
agreed. So
I thank them very much for their feedback.
Yes. Yes. That is going to be fantastic. And I can't wait to start sharing that.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the run portion of this week's episode.
For sure. And then, of course, we have food and beverage to explore and indulge.
And this week, we are taking a trip over to Disney's Hollywood Studios. I think arguably one of our two favorite parks.
Fair. I think that is a fair assessment. Anybody who's been following the podcast for any length of time knows that is a favorite park of ours when we're talking about running in any Run Disney weekend and which parks we're going to visit to explore and indulge.
It also has some amazing options for food and beverage. One of our favorites, one that is so quintessentially Hollywood, happens to be there. And it's one of the first, it's one of the first sit-down establishments that you come to as you enter the park. And that would be the Hollywood Brown Derby.
Oh, yum, yum, and yum.
And we're going to be talking about food and beverage from this piece of Hollywood history and classic Americana.
It's in the perfect place on the property.
Yes.
And it's one of the greatest places to celebrate, I think, in terms of the meal we had and potentially what else you could have from their menu.
Absolutely. So we have a lot to talk about on this week's bonus episode of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. But before we do that, if you would like to get a shout out for you or somebody else that you love on the show, or a friend of yours, a family member, somebody who's accomplished something, let us know.
Yes. Email us at info@runeatdrink.net. That's info@runeatdrink.net. You can write it out, or you can attach a little audio snippet so that we can play it and make you famous.
Or go old school. Call us at 941-677-2733. Leave us a voicemail right there on that line, and we can use that instead of an emailed sound file. And we can make you and the person you are shouting out, Runcation Nation, famous.
941-677-2733.
Let's talk tips for first-time Run Disney runners. When you first told me about this, I thought it was such a good idea because it's an overwhelming thing your first time going. I remember our first time going to Run Disney event.
It was a lot.
It was a nighttime race that's no longer held.
It's no longer held at night, and the event we participated in is no longer available.
That would be the Wine and Dine Half Marathon Relay.
Yes. We just registered for that event in November of this year.
Well, the Wine and Dine Half Marathon.
Yes. We registered for that race weekend, but no longer is the relay available.
And no longer is it at night.
Yeah.
Sad face. Sad emoji.
I know.
But when you suggest this, it's such a great idea because it really is, it's overwhelming. It's a lot going on.
When I think about the way we showed up to our first Run Disney event.
We were so grossly underprepared.
We were. I don't know. I don't even know where that original hydration belt is now anymore, somewhere in the house.
I'm sure it's somewhere in your closet.
I don't even know. No costume, no idea about how the expo worked, and
no. And there's a lot when you think about expo, packet pickup, transportation, the pre-race party, the post-race events and activities, merchandise. there's so much to take into account, and having some tips and tricks, like a dummies guide almost to how to attack Run
like
Disney
those yellow
weekend.
dummy books.
Hey, look, the library of those books that I have.
Oh yeah,
I love them, and I want people to think of it like we're going to break it down for you really simply with some really solid experience from people who have done these events in the past.
Mm-hmm. Shall we start with fellow podcasters?
Sure.
Okay. Because the Will Run For podcast crew have a couple of tips.
Great.
And they didn't say which member of the team submitted this.
So we're going to credit them all.
They submitted 2 tips.
Okay.
The first is forget sleep. Just rise and grind.
This is 100% true. This is probably not going to be a race where you're going to go with 8 hours in the tank in terms of sleep. If you travel in the day before and you can get in and get settled and you give yourself that extra day on the front end, you might be able to acclimate.
Sure.
But if you're coming in, traveling, doing expo that day, unless you're going to go straight from the expo back to your hotel and then get to sleep, if you're doing resort transportation, it's probably going to be a 2 a.m. wake up for you.
Oh, yeah.
If you're off property, it may very well be a 1 a.m. or a 1:30 a.m. wake up.
And you have to watch that time of morning also, because let's just not say we speak from experience, but we speak from experience that daylight saving time can bite you in the butt.
It can confirm. It can do it. It will do it if you're racing on that weekend.
It will do it if you don't take it into account, and then you set your alarm and you get up and you do your whole routine and you take a shower only to find that the clock has fallen backwards. You didn't need to get up yet. For real.
There was no chance we were going to be late that morning, though.
Well, that's true, but I was just so exhausted. Which is to their point. Don't forget about sleep. Rise and grind. And then a fellow Runcation Nationer, marathon mom, who's Andrea. She says, I would die. But really, if you're nervous about your first Run Disney event, I don't imagine that you get very much restful sleep anyway, because you're excited. You're wanting to make sure that you get up on time, and those nights where you have something big in your life the next day and you've done everything to set the alarms and make sure you're going to be there. And every once in a while you just get up and you look at your alarm or you look at the clock and it's still not time to get up, and you have those intermittent bouts of checking the clock because you're so excited. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, like I was saying with the transportation at the resorts, the race resorts, the buses start loading at 3 a.m. And the pre-race party is rocking as soon as you get there in the morning, and it's going, and you'll have plenty of time to get over to the start area, get through security,
the earlier you go.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's worth getting there early. There's plenty of porta potties. If you want to go to one of the food trucks for a cup of coffee, you can get hydrated, whatever the case may be. You can do all of that.
Whatever goes with your ritual.
But plan on getting up early.
Don't do anything new on race day.
Truth.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And then they also have a tip that says, prepare for all weather possibilities. Take 1 million pictures. This is more than one tip, actually. It's 3 tips in the sentence. Prepare for all weather possibilities. Take 1 million pictures. Be the first on the bus. Have fun and enjoy the magic.
Yeah, that's all solid. I think the take 1 million pictures, 100%. Just be mindful of what's going on around you. Of course, you don't want to do anything unsafe.
What would be unsafe?
Paying more attention to your phone than the road, and you end up going butt over tea kettle.
Oh, you mean in terms of getting ready for the pictures and things like that, or?
Well,
Yeah.
if you're taking photos, you don't want to be moving and not watching where you're stepping.
Also important. Yes. Safety
'Cause
first.
These are crowded race courses.
Safety first.
Exactly.
And some uneven terrain depending on the road you're on, construction,
Whether you're in the park or not, some of the parks are uneven.
and different terrain. And some roads are under construction. Some need the repaving that has begun. So it's uneven. You gotta be careful wherever you are. Perfectly Imperfect Maria, who we met up with at one of our last Run Disney events, says, have fun and take it all in. Live in the moment. Always pay extra for PhotoPass. No matter how crazy you look or think you look, these pictures will always remind you of how badass you truly are.
I like that. Yeah, the PhotoPass is, I believe it's a $99 add-on to the cost of your registration. And yes, for some, that's a little steep, but if that is within your budget, I would highly recommend that you do it. There are ample photographers all throughout the course. They're going to be snapping photos of you at every stage during the race. And some of those photos usually turn out to be really good. And if you have the opportunity to hold on to those memories and have something to look back on, I think it's well worth the money.
There are some, before the pandemic, when PhotoPass was included in certain levels of the annual passes that we would purchase, I would be so thankful for having those photos, because there are some races at Disney where certain times on the course where I knew I was going to make it to the end and a PhotoPass photographer had captured that perfectly. I was just so happy I had access to those moments. So I think that she is right, and it is a perfect tip. If you can swing it, it is so emotional, so wonderful to be able to look back on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then to connect to that tip, Anna runs on coffee, who we love, and we've had share a memory from Run Disney on the show before. Stop for characters, but do not slow down for PhotoPass photographers. Stay at whatever speed you're moving and just keep it steady so others can get a picture too. The lenses are huge, which means they take the picture like a mile away. If you get up close, you'll just end up blurry and ruin pictures. Photographers are in the parks by the green tents and bright lights. And she decided to go with this tip because it's a different aspect to Run Disney than other races.
Yeah, and it's a good tip as well. If you're not thinking about it, you don't need to stand right in front of the photographer. They are taking photos with a fairly wide lens. They do a great job of getting pretty much everybody tons of photos of us when we've taken them, and many of which we're not necessarily the central figure, but if once we've downloaded the photo, we could crop it and it's a great photo just of us.
Yeah.
What you forget about is they've planned all this out. So they've got great spots all along the course. And what they're talking about, these little tents, it's like a blind that the photographers sit in that shields them from the elements.
Yeah.
And they've got big, bright, white LED lights shining towards you, not towards the photographer, towards you.
And they're spaced before those tents.
Yes.
So that it's like an indicator that they're coming.
Well, it serves as an indicator for you, and for them, what it is they don't need a flash.
And so when you see that, you know that they're coming. You don't have to slow down. That's just a visual, and you can keep trucking along and join hands with your partner, or just remember it's a visual cue to, am I smiling? Yes.
Exactly.
It's coming. So that way you don't slow down or you don't alter your plan. You just know it's coming, and it's a visual reminder to, hey, smile. So Marathoning mom, Andrea, says, always pack a disposable poncho. Wish we had read this before this past year. Yeah. Good for if it's a bit chilly, nice to sit on, and it's Florida. There's always a chance of rain. Y'all know I have all the Run Disney tips.
100%. And I would go a step further and say, buy disposable ponchos, take a really large trash bag and fold it up and throw it in your running belt, whatever the case may be. If you've got the wherewithal and you remember to do it, pick it up before you get there. Ponchos at Disney ponchos are $20.
They can be expensive, or you may not have a cleaning crew nearby you at 2 a.m. or 1 or 2:30, whatever it is.
At your hotel like
that you
we've done.
Like that you can approach and say, "Hey, can we borrow this?
Can I get the biggest can liner you have on your cart?" And they hand us the trash bags. I'm like, "This will do.
This will do."
And I literally have cut a head hole or torn a head hole out and just run in a trash bag. And it works.
It works.
It's not the most comfortable running experience, but it works.
But I think if you have an inexpensive one where it's all been done for you that you can throw somewhere in your gear or on your person, that's a good tip.
Yeah, and there are plenty of options on like Amazon.com or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Speaking of things you may want to pack, Kristen, who is at Bigger Girls Run 2 on Instagram, she says, cooling arm sleeves are the bomb in all caps. Easy to put on and take off, but kept me cool during Princess. Also, they have SPF protection in them for those warmer and sunnier days. A 3-pack on Amazon's $15.
This is not a bad option, really and truly. You can certainly get a 3-pack on Amazon. You can find these at the Runners Expo as well. Just remember, if you're buying from the expo, sometimes depending on the particular merchandise, you may be paying a bit of a premium. So pre-purchasing from someplace like Amazon might be a better way to go. But for the warmer races, anything like that will cool you off is a great idea.
And they're easy to take on and off, looking at them.
Yeah, the Florida heat is no joke. We've talked about it more than once here on the show. And
hydrate.
At Disney especially, because that area of Florida was at one time and on the outskirts of the parks still very much is a swamp.
Speaking of weather and pace concerns and just worrying about those kinds of things, Ryan Runs Disney on Instagram says, don't panic about the balloon ladies. They are not evil people. If you trained, you'll be just fine.
Now, we've actually had the benefit of getting to talk with the balloon ladies. I believe we have a little video of me talking with them in our first year on the show. I ran back to talk with them as we were coming through Epcot.
Oh.
Super nice. Yeah. They're wonderful. They're
I think it was Animal Kingdom. I don't know.
They're not evil. There is an evil person.
Oh, no.
And that's the one you're thinking of. That person wears a costume at some of the races, and she dresses like the balloon ladies. And then
so this is a tip.
And then it says, made you look. And boy, does she. Okay.
Because she has balloons.
Oh, yeah. She's doing it on purpose, and it's hilarious, but it's evil.
It is, especially when you're like, hey, just coming back from an injury, and I'm worried and concerned, and I think I've got this, but I'm not sure. And I saw her going into Animal Kingdom, the back of Animal Kingdom once, and it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh!
I had to laugh after the fact, but that is, they're fantastic, but they're there to let you know, you need to stay ahead of these people on the course, or else you're going to get swept.
Yes.
And I agree with Ryan. If you've done your training, if you're ready to go, if in your training runs, you're doing some runs to make sure that you are hitting your race pace, which is 16 minutes a mile or faster, you're going to be fine. Right. I would add to that tip and say that if you are wanting to stop for character photos, you should train for probably a 14-minute per mile pace or faster. If you're training just for 16, because you're going to have to wait in lines at those character stops, that may not be enough buffer. So keep that in mind.
Assuming you have trained and taken this advice from you and from Ryan Runs Disney and incorporated that into your training and you're ready to go, Running Through Wonderland Jen, friend and patron of the show, says, don't worry about pace. Don't worry about the people that are ahead of you. Live in the moment. Enjoy the fact that you're in Disney, running these magical miles and having the time of your life.
And I would agree with that. I think that there are some beautiful views to see at the Run Disney races. I love the early morning races when you're coming into, let's say, Magic Kingdom over by Tomorrowland and seeing sunrise in Tomorrowland. That is so cool.
Oh, also over Epcot.
Or over
and
Epcot.
The showcase.
Spaceship Earth.
And, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the World Showcase.
And you don't get to do that anywhere else. Or if you're going to Star Wars weekend and you're running Star Wars and there's that back stretch that everybody laments a little bit because they're like, there's nothing back here. It's just they're running us by a water treatment plant. And they set up the sounds of the Battle of Hoth playing on the speakers. They've got lasers, actual lasers shooting across the forest on either side. And then they've got fire pots exploding. So you actually feel like you're in the middle of that fight between the Empire and the Ewoks as you're running. You never get to do that anywhere else.
And you never know what kind of special setup like that they'll have at Springtime Surprise or depending on the race theme weekend, that weekend in particular. And related to that tip, another one of our patrons, Fun Size Jen, she says, have fun, enjoy the experience. And I think it's related to Ryan Runs Disney and your tip that you just shared a few minutes ago. Understand your pace and how it relates to the character stops, like in the training of it. I think that's perfect. And I just wanted to bring that because it was very smart for Fun Size Jen to mention that.
Absolutely.
And as far as the expo goes, as far as the expo and advice for the expo and Run Disney specialized merchandise on race weekends, which can be a hot button topic. Breakfast of Marathons, and I believe her first name is Emily. She says, if there's something as far as Run Disney merch that you see that you want, you may not be sure it fits, buy it. Things may sell out very quickly. And if worse comes to worse, you can always return the merch to a resort gift shop.
That's a great tip. You've experienced this where you're trying on stuff. They don't have a changing room or fitting room.
Over clothing.
Yeah. And that's hard to get a really good sense of how something's going to fit. So I think that's a great tip.
Yeah.
I would actually add to that and say, because yes, we've had some pretty contentious conversations about the merchandise situation at Run Disney events. Disney has put in place some very minimal precautions to keep resellers from coming in to buy up everything. And
minimal.
The fact of the matter is, if you don't get to the expo early, and I'm going to say day one of race weekend,
I think you're right.
You may be out of luck to get the merchandise that you want because they allow for people to purchase 2 of any SKU or SKU. So that means
like barcodes or whatever.
Yeah. So you can purchase 2 small, 2 medium, 2 large, 2 extra large. You as an individual, and you'll see entire families coming in with adults and kids with gift cards or credit cards, buying 2 of each SKU as they go up. And by the end of day one, merchandise is already showing up on reseller sites. So keep that in mind. But her tip, I think, is great because if you do find that thing that you think you want, but you're just not certain, this is a great opportunity for you to take it back and return it without worry.
And speaking of clothing and what you wear on race day, Susie Runs 50 commented, I have tips, and many. But first, my advice is let your inner child come out to play.
Absolutely.
or let your inner child out to play. I was 48 when I did my first Run Disney race. I wore a boring black shorts and a black top because I thought I was too old to wear glitter and running skirts. I soon realized you're never too old to play dress up. Wear all the glitter, sparkle, and bling as long as it's comfortable to run in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's great. I related to her tip, it's a place where you can go and you can be a kid, and you can't necessarily dress up when you go to the park regularly or in real life daily. When you're an adult, you're doing adulting things.
They say dress for the job that you want. And every time I show up dressed up like Batman, they look at me like I have 3 heads.
Yes.
So
you can't do that.
No,
Captain. No, no, but when you're at a Run Disney race, all of that is fair game. You can dress up like an Ewok. You can dress up like Groot. You can dress up like any princess that is your princess, or as Prince Charming, or what have you. I will say this. Make sure you practice with your costume.
Oh, you read my mind. I was going to say, I love the creativity that we've seen in some of these costumes and what people have managed to do to come up with amazing costumes that really represent the character very well that they're trying for.
Yeah. And
they've made them in such a way that they're compatible with the activity of running. Because if you don't, and we've seen a couple of costumes that kind of failed on the race course, or costumes that people were like, I did not think this through.
Or they talked afterwards about chafing.
Or dying of heat. Because again, many Disney races are run in Florida heat.
You can never tell about the weather.
And I was going to say, any time of year, it could be very, very warm and you may not be accustomed to it. And we've seen people wear like full body velour costumes. It was Captain Hook and the alligators. And somebody in the alligator costume was dying of heat.
Or like a onesie. Somebody dressed as Deadpool once in a onesie.
Yes.
And I was just like, how is it possible?
Yeah.
No. So
practice with your costume before you show up on race day.
Yeah.
Know that you can do that, and that figure out where your pain points might be with the costume, and then adjust before race day.
It's the same with nutrition. Never try anything new on race day. Always try it in training. You may look a little funny trying to run in the costume. Maybe you'll do it in the pre-dawn hours when no one's out there in the neighborhood. But just as long as you've run with and gotten an idea of what you need to adjust, you'll be good to go.
Absolutely.
Emily, who is EcoFit13, says, don't forget to have fun. I know it's a rush on race day to get to the bus in the morning, to go to the corrals, but honestly, Disney races are the most fun. Best of luck and have a great race. And longtime patron and friend of the show, Main Street Miles Meg, she says, no matter how hot it is, either pack in your race gear, and she's talking about post-race, which I love. No matter how hot it is, either pack in your race gear, check bag, give to your finish line cheer squad, a long sleeve, lightweight hoodie, and also a set of recovery sandals. As soon as you stop, your body starts the cool down process, but you're covered in sweat, and then you get on a highly air-conditioned bus or highly air-conditioned car, you get cold. Trust me, the sandals are to relieve your swollen and tired feet.
I think that's a great tip. I know that the first time we did a half marathon, afterwards, we were both having severe chills.
Yeah.
Of course, you can wrap yourself in the Mylar blankets and all of that they have there at the end of the race, but having something to wear and being prepared, you can't beat that.
Yeah. Immediate recovery. Begin recovery and protecting yourself and from any kind of heat exhaustion sickness, post-race.
And the recovery sandals too, resting your feet, especially if you're doing a challenge where you're going to be running multiple races during the weekend.
Such a fantastic tip. And that does it for the tips we have from our Runcation Nation. Thank you for providing those.
Absolutely. If you've got additional tips, please go ahead. Feel free to send them. We can share them out on social media throughout the week.
Yeah.
Email it to us at info@runeatdrink.net. That's info@runeatdrink.net, or call and leave us a voicemail,
941-677-2733. That's 941-677-2733.
Now, once you guys get done doing all of this amazing running that you're going to be doing at the Springtime Surprise, you've accomplished your goal. You need to explore the food and beverage scene at the Walt Disney World area. And we think that a great option for you, since you'll want a place to sit down after all of this running, is going to be over at Disney's Hollywood Studios. You know, the same place where you can ride things like the Rock and Roller Coaster, the Tower of Terror, Star Tours, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway,
Slinky Dog
and
Dash.
Slinky Dog Dash, and of course, make your way over to the Star Wars area for Smuggler's Run and Rise of the Resistance. But on your way through to all of that stuff, you've got to walk past the Hollywood Brown Derby.
Yum.
And like I said, this place is quintessentially Hollywood. This is, you know, something that's plucked from really the height of Hollywood's golden era or golden age. When you go in, you see all the amazing caricatures and photos of famous Hollywood celebrities all over that have graced the Hollywood Brown Derby with their presence and enjoyed their food. And there's just something I think really cool about going to the place that is credited with inventing the Cobb salad.
Oh, just so good. It's so good. I'm sorry. I'm just having flashbacks to the amazing meal we had. Soup, salad, and sides. Oh. Should we relive it?
I think we should. And fortunately, we had the wherewithal to turn on the recorder and record our hot take on the amazing food that we had at the Hollywood Brown Derby. So let's give that a listen now.
All right, Runcation Nation, we are now having our, this is going to sound strange, we're here at the Hollywood Brown Derby inside of Disney's Hollywood Studios. This is one of my favorite restaurants ever. My dad used to take me to the Brown Derby in Indian Rocks Beach when I was a kid back in the 70s and 80s. That we are having an appetizer. This is their oyster and brie soup.
Yes, their oyster and brie soup, crispy oyster fritter, champagne, Meyer lemon saffron aioli.
When they bring it out to you, it's this large plate with a little cup in the middle where it goes. You got the two fritters, like they look almost like hush puppies.
They're tiny,
but they're fried oysters, basically.
They're not huge hush puppies.
No, and then in the bottom of the plate is a little drizzle of that aioli, and then they pour the hot soup around and over the fritters.
Oh my God!
The fritter is crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside.
The soup, it's like got a butter velvet texture. It's creamy, it's buttery. I know I said that twice.
Yeah, but the brie by itself is very buttery and nutty, and super mild. So that's not normally a cheese I would expect to see in a soup, and they really lean into that aspect because they didn't do anything to really overpower that. There's a little bit of heat from, I think, white pepper.
Maybe at the very end of
just a touch
of a taste of the soup.
There's enough salt to let you really taste that brie. It is so good. And these fritters give you the essence of oyster without an overpowering seafood flavor.
Yeah.
I love oysters. Fried oysters especially.
It's not fishy.
Not at all.
It's
not at all.
The flavor of oysters, the creamy, buttery, slightly lemony, a little bit spicy on the end. And it's the perfect portion too, I think,
Oh, this
for
is
an
so rich.
appetizer. Yeah.
If you were to do anything larger than this, you'd be done.
I don't know. You get 2 fritters in a serving.
Yes.
But if we had ordered just one of these, I might have said, shut up and get your own.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is again, it's decadent, rich.
I just got a crunchy bit of the fritter, so it maintains the crunch.
I think this was an absolute winner.
Winner. Hollywood Brown Derby dinner.
Indeed. Okay, Runcation Nation. So for lunch here at the Hollywood Brown Derby inside of Disney's Hollywood Studios, we decided to go with a classic.
Hollywood Brown Derby, Cobb salad. I'm just going to pull up the description. Okay.
I know you're thinking Cobb salad. What's the big deal?
It's
the
famous.
Hollywood Brown Derby invented it.
Spit roasted turkey, bacon, egg, tomato, blue cheese, avocado, classic dressing, and we added chicken. We also got enhancements. Deviled crab and orzo gratin, horseradish gremolata, Dijon mustard cream. Also, crispy potato cakes, minced chive, goat cheese, mousse.
The salad comes out. It's basically
Perfect.
everything is segregated on the plate, and then they combine it right here for you, split it right at the table. Because we shared it. It's huge. The salad's enormous. What do you think, Aim?
It's tangy.
It really is a perfectly composed salad.
Yeah, it's not like
the lettuce is chopped.
it doesn't take over the salad. No, it looks more like the lettuce looks more like it's more like spices, that fine, more like chopped
It's
that.
a fine chop on the lettuce. Yeah.
Yeah. You get
It makes it very easy to eat with a fork.
Yes.
And not have a lot of mess, which is I think why they do it.
I like the acidity. The tomatoes are fresh and at the perfect ripeness.
I like you get all that, but then you get a little hit of a piece of diced avocado.
Oh,
You
yeah.
get that burst of creaminess. This is again just the bacon is so smoky.
It's perfect.
It's an outstanding salad. It's $20 with the addition of the chicken breast. I believe it's $24.
Okay.
Well worth it. Let's talk about the gratin, shall we?
Yes.
So this is. Can you read the description?
Oh,
Oh, you read the description.
I did, but just for you. This is deviled crab and orzo gratin with horseradish gremolata, Dijon mustard cream.
They serve this in a little cast iron crock. Wow, that is so tasty. The crab.
I love the breadcrumb.
Yeah, you get that nice crunch of the breadcrumbs. And I think that's the gremolata.
Yeah, the crunchy topping.
But the crab is so mild and sweet. There's a sweetness to it that is really nice. What do you think?
It's hearty and I don't know, like it's like comfort food.
Seafood comfort food.
Yeah, it feels like a casserole.
Oh, that's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah, and it's tiny. This is really meant to be like a side or an accompaniment to your entree, but we got a couple of these little things to split.
What they call an enhancement.
An enhancement.
And I definitely think that's accurate 100%.
Yeah. Now the horseradish is very mild.
Oh yeah, it's not super spicy. It's not going to light up your nose. No, and I think that comes with baking it in there rather than adding it at the end.
Yeah, I would get that again.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
Potato cakes.
these potato cakes.
With a goat cheese kind of mousse.
They're pretty. They're about the size of a little cheddar biscuit.
Yeah. It's like a little bigger than a silver dollar.
Yeah. They're denser than I thought they would be.
What, more like a latke?
Yes.
Or a latke?
Or latkes. Or,
How do you say that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm terrible at it.
But the flavor.
Very potato. It takes on kind of like a biscuit consistency around the potato.
Yes.
But the goat cheese is very tiny. I like that.
That's a perfect goat cheese. If you've never had it, gives you this wonderful tang and a little bit of funk.
Yeah.
I would get this again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I think that the actual cake, the potato cake is a drier consistency, so it needs the goat cheese.
Yes. Yeah.
So together they make the perfect bite. I'd get this again. I would get the crab gratin. I would get the crab salad. It's an amazing meal. And that's, well, it's no surprise that they are a time-honored tradition that continues for decades.
I love the Brown Derby. It is absolutely one of my favorite places. And I used to go there with my family as a kid. It's nostalgic. It's also historical, and it's delicious.
Oh, I just want to go back. Like right now.
Yeah, that brie soup is to die for.
Oh,
and no Cobb salad tastes as good as that Cobb salad.
and the sides. The sides. Yes, there are entrees that we did not explore when we were there that we want to go back and have. But what we had alone is amazing food you need to experience. That's all I'm going to say.
That's all you're going to say? Because we got some drinks to talk about.
Well, yes, we do.
But before we do that, we want to say
I didn't see what you did.
we want to say a special thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the show. You guys have enabled us to upgrade our podcast studio and bring brand new race weekends to the Runcation Nation.
And specifically, we want to say a special thank you to two of our newest patrons, Michael David, who you often hear on the Will Run For podcast.
Yeah.
And he just a few short days ago became our newest patron at the fan level. And we are so happy to have him as part of our Runcation Nation. And also Dean Gerber. I think we have talked about him and shouted him out in the past previous few weeks.
Or we may have talked or mentioned him in a live.
Or we may have mentioned him in a live, but we just want to say thank you so much, gentlemen. A newest fan and the newest insider as patrons of the Run Eat Drink podcast. You have enabled us to continue the growth that we have experienced thanks to all the rest of our patrons in the Runcation Nation.
Absolutely. If you're a patron, thank you. And if you're not and you want bonus content like some of the food and beverage that maybe didn't make it into the show proper, some behind the scene footage and more, check out patreon.com/runeatdrinkpodcast. Or if you're in the Podbean app, click on the button at the top of the player and you can see all of our patronage levels right there in their patron program that they have as well.
Our show will always be free, but if you want even more, join us on patreon.com/runeatdrinkpodcast or through Podbean. You can check out all the levels and become a patron today. As always, everyone in the Runcation Nation, we say thank you for your support.
So let's talk drinks.
Yeah.
They have an amazing bar game at the Brown Derby.
Oh, yes.
They really do. And we also captured that as a live take audio recording on that day.
I think we were taking it easy on the beverage front, so we only had the one. But if you're only going to have one, you should have the one that's named for the place. The iconic Derby cocktail at the Hollywood Brown Derby.
We are here at the Hollywood Brown Derby inside of Disney's Hollywood Studios.
I'm very excited. Our waiter, his name is Greg.
Yes.
He has made some fantastic recommendations, starting with beverages.
Yes.
So how do the drinks taste?
This drink is absolutely, we are thrilled.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just standard bread, and it's red Hawaiian sea salt on top of the butter.
Oh my.
You're welcome.
Well, as you heard it right here, our bread comes with butter that has red Hawaiian sea salt on top.
Wow.
The cocktails that we got is one of their signature drinks. It's called the Derby cocktail.
Yes. Let me
Amy's going to read the description.
present to you the description of our Derby cocktail. How can you not get the one named for the restaurant?
Exactly.
So for $15, so yes, we know, it is a celebratory cocktail. The Derby cocktail is Gentleman Jack, Florida honey syrup, pink grapefruit juice, and a souvenir glow cube.
Yeah, so this is visually very striking. Ours is glowing this bright pink, orangish pink. And you heard us tell Greg that the drinks are amazing. Let's tell you why.
I would say the perfect word for this is balance, because bourbon can burn in a cocktail, or there can be really heavy-handed sweetness, or you could be dangerous with a grapefruit, really sour or tart note.
Yes.
And I feel like there's just enough bourbon so you get the smoke. There's just enough grapefruit so there's a slight tartness. It's the salt and pepper of the drink. And then the honey syrup just makes sure that there's no burn from the bourbon and everything is in perfect alignment in this cocktail.
I absolutely couldn't say it any better than that. She hit the nail on the head. You get a little bit of everything with no one ingredient taking over.
Yes. So whatever proportions, whatever devil magic there is, it's perfect. We really ought to reproduce this at home.
We now have the glow. We get to keep the glowing ice cube, which is adorable.
I'm not really sure how to transport that, but yes, that's fun.
So we can replicate it, and it'll look cool too.
So cheers, Runcation Nation, to the Derby cocktail at the Hollywood Brown Derby, full of tradition and Hollywood magic and indulgent cocktails. We are suckers for bourbon.
Oh, absolutely. That's where they had me. And then on top of that, it lights up.
Oh yeah, and we brought those home. We brought those little glow cubes home.
And they've been used here at home. Yeah.
And I know that they have an extensive menu that we didn't even scratch the surface of. In fact, we went back to their outdoor bar to experience their signature grapefruit beverage.
Yes, they do a grapefruit cocktail that mimics the flavor of their grapefruit cake,
which we may or may not have ordered at the end of this meal to go to have in the hotel room later.
Definitely worth checking out,
That's
guys.
all I'm saying.
I hope that you all enjoyed hearing about the Hollywood Brown Derby and will consider this as an option for you when you are at Walt Disney World in Orlando for this weekend, the springtime surprise.
We wish you a fantastic time. Soak it all up. Remember the tips, and thank you to the Runcation Nation for providing those. Next week,
we're still in Florida.
Actually, it's next episode.
Yeah.
I'm so used to saying next week.
Because the next episode will drop a little sooner.
The next week.
We're still in Florida.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about the Gasparilla Distance Classic in Tampa. Just an hour and a half down the road, down I-4 from Orlando. And that is one of our absolute favorites. And we're getting to go back post-pandemic and tell you guys all about that race weekend and what it has to offer in terms of food and beverage in Cigar City, Tampa, Florida.
Thank you so much for listening, for joining us on your long run, your commute to work, around the house, wherever you are. I'm your host, Amy.
And I'm your co-host, Dana.
Stay safe and well, and we will accomplish, explore, and indulge with you really soon.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Run, Eat, Drink podcast. We're having another great year thanks to your support. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're at Run, Eat, Drink Podcast. And on Twitter, we're Run, Eat, Drink Pod. You can also give us a call at 941-677-2733 or send us an email at info@runeatdrink.net. Visit our website at runeatdrink.net and click on the subscribe link so you don't miss a minute. Find out how you can support the show at patreon.com/runeatdrinkpodcast. Accomplish, explore, and indulge right along with us. We'll talk to you next time.